Hi guys, this is Udi. Another lesson on Massive, and this time filters. So, filters are the way we can shape the sound by eliminating frequencies. And what that means is that when we're creating any kind of sound using our oscillators or noise, whatever, then we have a whole spectrum of frequencies running around. So when we are shaping the sound, we sometimes want to just cut. We want to eliminate some of the frequencies so we can concentrate on specific ranges. And now, if I'll take just the basic sound here, new sound, and have a look at the analyzer here, you can see that immediately. I have a whole bunch of frequencies running, and that's really not something I want to use at this point. So, for example, I can take a low pass. And cut away some of the high frequencies. So this is a very basic example here. And I can have, let's say, a reverb. And already I have a very nice sounding patch here. Now I can also have an envelope automate the cutoff, for example. So I can have envelope 1 dropped here, and then let's hear what that does. And basically what we're doing here is we're automating the cutoff movement here. So you can see this blue arch. This is exactly what happens when the sound evolves over time over the attack here. So the longer the attack, the longer that effect. And if we have resonance in, and I'll talk about resonance, then you'll see some other kind of effects. So this is exactly what filters are for, to shape and create something more exciting, something more usable from the basic sound that the oscillators have for us. So now let's dive into the details here. And before we even begin to talk, on all these types of filters, let's talk about routing. So I'll go and select new sound, and we'll talk about the routing. Filters. We have filter 1 and we have filter 2, and we can use either of them, or we can use just one of them, but we can also use them in parallel mode or in serial mode. And by that I mean that we can have these two filters run separately when we are in parallel mode, or we can have filter 1 feed filter 2 when we are in serial mode. And of course we can have anything in between. So the slider here just before our filters is that effect here. So we can have anywhere in between serial and parallel. And in order for us to, grasp that, then we can just, let's take oscillator 1 and feed filter 1, and have oscillator 2 feed filter 2, and go all the way down to parallel mode. And before we even begin, we need to engage filter 2, and we can change the mix here. So this is the output, the overall output of the filters, and we can just move that into the middle here, so we can hear both of filter 1 and filter 2 sounds. So now, if I play anything, so both of these oscillators are running through filter 1 and filter 2, each to its own. Now let's select low pass for the first filter and a double notch for the other one. So we can see and we can hear that there is effect. We're changing the cutoff, we hear it. Now, if I'll go all the way to mix 1, so I'll only hear filter 1. Filter 2 doesn't really affect anything. If I'll go all the way down, I'll only hear what comes from filter 2. So this is a complete parallel mode. And if I want to have filter 1 feed filter 2, I can have, let's say, both of these oscillators go to filter 1. Then I'll go to full serial mode. And now both of these oscillators will go to filter 1. Filter 1 will do whatever filter 1 does. Then filter 1 will feed filter 2, and eventually we'll hear what comes out of filter 2. And this is the settings that I have here. And of course, I can automate the cutoff for filter 1 and filter 2 in different ways. I can have envelope here. And I can have another envelope for the second filter. So this is a little bit squeaky for me, but that's the idea here. And now let's dive right into the different filters themselves. So let's go back to new sound and explore the different filters. Let's start with a new sound. So File, New Sound. Now each of the filters have an activation button, so I can engage filter 1, filter 2, or both of them, doesn't matter. Now each of the filters have 3 knobs. If I select low pass, you'll see that the left one here is the cutoff. The right one is resonance, which is a boost around the cutoff point, around the cutoff frequency. And then the middle one is really dependent on the type of filter that we select. So for the low pass, nothing. But if we select scream, for example, then we have the scream here, which is kind of an internal feedback mechanism. So let's go over all the types that we have and understand exactly what can we expect from each of them. So low pass means that we will let the low frequencies pass and basically remove the high frequencies. So let's just play something and see how it works. So you can see that as I'm turning the cutoff knob here, I'm cutting off the high frequencies, leaving my sound just with the low frequencies. And we can also see the resonance point here. So have a look at the right side here. So what's the use of the resonance? Well, it will add some boost to the high frequencies if we are using the low pass, and it will add some low frequencies if we're using the high pass. But most of all, it is very useful when we're automating the cutoff point. So let me do that. I'll select in envelope 1 here, and I'll drop it on the cutoff. And what I'm expecting to actually achieve here is to have something like the envelope move this button for me. So let's do it manually and here, and then we'll automate that. So I'm playing a note and also changing the cutoff point. Right, and now I already have my envelope set here. I need to click and drag it up or down. If I'm dragging it up, it is as if I'm expecting the knob here to open up. if I'm dragging it all the way down here, is if I'm expecting the knob to just turn to the left here. So let's see how that works. In reality, what happens is that that knob, that automation here, will be mostly affected by the attack. So that slope here, and I can do something like this, and what will happen is that the envelope will control the cutoff and will change its value along this line here, and then we will drop into our sustain period, and eventually we'll just release. So let's see how that works. And if I'm changing the direction, so the longer the attack, the slower the cutoff will change. It will take just more time for the cutoff to reach its maximum value, and that's really the point of an envelope attack. The envelope attack always defines how long would it take for the envelope to reach its maximum value. That's defined by the attack. So it's not really related directly to the cutoff here, but any parameter that I will be automating using envelope will react the same. So just the way envelopes works. So that's low pass. And what's the number 4 here? So when we're talking about cutoffs, we're talking also about slopes. And the filter doesn't really cut the frequencies just right on the spot. It will allow some of the sounds to just go through. And if we take, for example, the noise section here and use it to demonstrate that, you'll see exactly what I mean. So when we're talking about 4 here, it means 24 dBs per octave, and 2, it means 12 dBs per octave, and it will be a more moderate slope. Let's have the noise engaged here, and we'll see it in action. So let me just remove here the automation and get the resonance all the way down. So you can see the slope here. That's the slope. It's not cutting the frequencies on the spot here. So selecting low pass 2 will show us a different type of slope. And that's basically the idea. So we're letting more of the high frequencies pass through. Now let's try and do something useful with the filter here. So I'll select low pass filter. And I can have some reverb. And we can also go to envelope 4, which defines my overall volume, and just have a little bit more of the release. And we can automate the cutoff as well, as we did before. Drop envelope 1 here. And just for fun, we can have also oscillator 2. And have it 4 semitones up. And we can change the attack time also. Very cool. So what else? If I'm going to try and do something also interesting with the resonance, that might be like taking the resonance all the way up. Let's see how that works. And I can actually take the amplifier here all the way down for both of them and only hear the resonance effect. So that's the idea. Let's go back to new sound and see what else we have here. So that was the low pass, and we have two of them, and then we have high pass. So high pass is pretty much the opposite. So we have a filter that will give us the high frequencies, but will cut off the low frequencies. And I can actually have oscillator 2 go all the way to filter 2, oscillator 1 go to filter 1, and have a low pass here. So I have a high pass and a low pass. So I can actually have filter 1 do its thing to only the high frequencies, and then have maybe filter 2 do something for the low frequencies. So that's the idea. Again, 4 means 24 dBs per octave, and the high 2 means that you'll have 12 dBs per octave of the slope. Now, all pass will give us something else. So let's go again to new sound. Let's select here all pass, and it actually means that we are inverting the phase, but again, letting all the frequencies pass. So that's the idea in essence. And then let's move on. We have a double notch. So double notch means that we'll still have all the frequencies, but we have like 2 bytes in the frequency range. So I can show you that again with the noise. So let's have the noise. We can turn off the oscillators, and you can see the notches here. And as I move the cutoff point, it just moves across the frequency range. So that can be used maybe to simulate some flanging or a phasing effect. Let's have the oscillators back again. And again, I can automate that. I can actually take an LFO, drop it here. Let's take the LFO 5. And that's the way it is. So I can also combine the double notch here with maybe filter 2. For example, I can have, let's take low pass here, and then I'll take the double notch in filter 2. And what will happen is, since I'm selecting here serial, filter 1 will cut off the low frequencies, then feed that into filter 2, which in turn will use the double notch to filter whatever we have. So that's the idea of the double notch. Let's go back to new sound and let's have a look at the bandpass. So bandpass means that we'll be allowing a certain band, a certain area of frequencies, a certain range, and not allowing the left, to the left and to the right of that area. So some sort of small mountain or a hill. And then we have also bandwidth. So you can see the use of the middle knob here, which will be the width of that band. Moving on, we have band reject. So that's pretty much the opposite. So we'll allow all the frequencies except some band in the middle. And that's the idea of the band reject. And then we also have the scream. Scream is some sort of a low pass filter again, with some internal feedback mechanism. And we can select all kinds of other types of wavetables just to, try out new things. That's the idea of the scream. Then we have daft, which is another type of low-pass filter, and it actually also reacts to the modulation oscillator. So I can engage that and have it affect my first filter or the second one. I can't do both. So it's some sort of a metallic sound. It really depends on the pitch here, or on the modulation oscillator, and how I'm using the frequency modulation to the filter. Moving on, we have a comb filter, which is some sort of a filter with a lot of very small notches. So I can actually show you that again using the noise. Oh, it's actually hard to see, but just imagine that we have some, like a comb, like a hair comb. So we have a lot of very small notches, and as I move the pitch here, then we get the effect of like a flanging effect. So that's the comb filter, and then acid is yet another low pass filter. Let's do another sound. Get the acid here. And it also reacts to our modulation oscillator. And again, it really depends on the type of the wavetable that we select. And we can change again envelope 4 to have a little bit more release. Okay, so that's pretty much all the types of filters. I hope that was useful for you. Stay tuned for our next lesson. And in the next lesson, I'll cover more of Massive. So let's meet then. Thank you very much and see you soon.